The silence wasn't peaceful. It had weight, like a coat soaked in rain, like static in a room that used to echo with laughter and kitchen sounds and toothpaste arguments. Now, there was only the sound of the ceiling fan and legal silence. No texts. No good morning. No, I left your tea on the counter. Just that email from her lawyer that arrived at 7:41 a.m. sharp. Effective immediately, all communication must go through counsel. That was it. After 12 years. No warning. No final conversation. Just silence, weaponized. I stared at the screen until it blurred. My cereal got soggy. I still ate it. I always eat it, even if it's mush. That's the kind of man I am. The kind who finishes what he starts, even when his wife doesn't. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just opened our joint banking dashboard, more out of habit than spite. And that's when I saw it. 3 withdrawals. Same day, totaling $39,220. She had moved the money before the lawyer's email. Not after. Before. That meant this wasn't a reaction. This was a plan. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even get dressed. I froze the accounts. Every single one I had the right to touch. Not out of revenge. Out of logic. If she wanted silence, she would have to live in it. 72 hours passed before the silence cracked. And when it did, it wasn't a scream. It wasn't a phone call. It was a knock at my door. From someone who shouldn't have known where I lived. I stood frozen behind the door. I didn't move. Not at first. I didn't even breathe too loud. I live in a quiet building. People don't knock here unless they're delivering something or about to ruin your day. Whoever it was knocked again. 3 slow, steady hits. Not aggressive, but intentional. I peeked through the peephole. It wasn't Lorelei. It wasn't the lawyer either. It was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, tidy haircut, black gloves, holding a yellow envelope. Now, here's the thing. I'm not paranoid by nature. But when your wife suddenly disappears behind a lawyer and empties your accounts, you stop thinking in terms of normal. Everything becomes threat assessment. So I didn't open the door. I waited. The man stared straight at the door for a few more seconds, then placed the envelope gently on the welcome mat, nodded. Yes, nodded, like we'd just had a polite conversation, and left. I didn't pick it up until an hour later. I sat on the couch watching it, like it might bite me. When I finally opened it, there was no return address. No name. Just a printed photo, and beneath it, for handwritten words. You should have checked sooner. The photo showed Lorelei, clear as day, sitting outside a cafe I'd never seen before. Smiling, holding hands with someone. It wasn't the hand-holding that got me. It was the timing. That cafe had Christmas decor in the window. We were still in October. That meant this wasn't recent. This wasn't her rebound after the lawyer. This was her while she was still with me. I felt my ribs shrink. My face went hot. I went to the fridge for water and realized I hadn't eaten all day. I didn't know what disturbed me more, that she was cheating, or that someone wanted me to know in such a specific, theatrical way. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table staring at my laptop, clicking through credit card statements. And I found things. Small things. Clues I'd missed. Nail salons 2 cities over. Uber charges from midnight pickups. A $98 charge from a boutique I didn't recognize on our anniversary. But it was what I found in the shared Google Photos account that finally shattered me. An album labeled Archives. Inside it, videos. Dozens. All muted. All recorded in secret. She had been filming me. At dinner. While I slept. While I shaved. Moments I didn't even know she was in the room. And in the corner of every video was a timestamp. Each one aligned with dates she claimed she was out with friends. I felt sick. Not angry. Not sad. Just contaminated. But what I didn't realize then was that the man who left the envelope wasn't done with me. Not even close. At some point that night, I forgot I was supposed to sleep. I just kept watching those videos, one after another. Some of them were less than 10 seconds long. Just tiny, quiet clips of me brushing my teeth, doing dishes, scrolling on my phone. In one, I was talking to myself, something I only do when I'm stressed. She must have been standing just out of frame, silently filming. But that wasn't the worst of it. About 30 videos in, something changed. The camera angle was different. Higher up. Still quiet. I didn't recognize the room. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she filmed something else and saved it to the wrong album. Until I saw her. Lorelei. Lying on a hotel bed. Laughing. And then, someone else came into frame. A man. Not the one from the cafe photo. Someone older. with gray hair and a calm confidence I didn't recognize. He sat beside her, kissed her shoulder, and whispered something into her ear. She laughed again, pulled the blanket over both of them, and the video ended. That was when I finally understood. The envelope at my door wasn't about the affair. It wasn't even about the divorce. It was a warning, or maybe a taunt. Either way, it meant someone was watching. Still watching. My chest felt tight. I reached for my phone to call someone, anyone, but stopped. Who would I even call? My brother lives 2 states away. My best friend moved to Oregon last year. And Lorelai had slowly, methodically pushed me away from every other person in my life over the past 5 years. I didn't even notice it happening. I was alone. The next morning, I woke up still in my chair. My back ached. My mouth was dry. My laptop was dead, battery blinking like a dying eye. I plugged it in and opened my email. There was a new message. No subject. No sender. Just a single line in the body. You didn't freeze everything. I scrambled back into the bank account, but everything looked untouched. I checked the credit reports. Nothing. Then I remembered something I had buried months ago. The crypto wallet. We had invested in Bitcoin 3 years ago, back when she convinced me it would be our fun risk project. It wasn't much, a few thousand. But the last time I checked, it had grown a lot. I logged in and felt like the ground fell out from under me. The wallet was empty. She hadn't just taken the money. She left behind a single transaction note. Sometimes silence is a choice. Other times, it's protection. And that's when I heard the doorbell. I froze. I was still in my wrinkled shirt from yesterday. I hadn't showered. My brain was static. The bell rang again. Longer this time. I crept to the door, looked through the peephole. It wasn't the man from before. This time, it was someone I recognized. Someone I hadn't seen in 4 years. Someone who should have no reason to be here. My former boss. And he was holding something in his hand that would unravel everything I thought I knew. I opened the door like I was defusing a bomb. Slow, cautious, unsure if I was making a mistake. My former boss, Franklin Keller, stood there like a memory I hadn't invited back. Same pinstripe coat. Same tired blue eyes. He looked older, heavier, but still sharp. I hadn't seen him since I left the company 4 years ago. No emails. No messages. Nothing. He didn't say hello. He just held out a folder. Thick, unmarked, manila. I stared at it, then at him. I didn't know where else to bring this, he said. But you needed to see it before they bury it. My mouth opened, but no words came. He placed the folder in my hands, took a slow breath, and looked past me into the apartment. She was careful, Everett. Too careful. That's why it took this long. And then, without another word, he walked away. I closed the door, locked it, double-locked it, and pulled every curtain in the apartment. I don't know why. I suddenly felt watched, like the walls had ears. I placed the folder on the kitchen table and just stared at it for 5 minutes, like it might explode. When I finally opened it, the first thing I saw was a photo of Lorelai. Not in a cafe, not in a hotel, in my old office building. From 3 years ago, she was standing in the lobby next to a man I recognized but couldn't name. There were more photos. Dozens. Her in the parking garage. Her inside the building. Her in a conference room. But Lorelai never worked there. I never told her much about that job. She always said tech bored her. But these photos showed her visiting the office on multiple dates over several months. Sometimes in disguise. Hat, glasses, hair tied differently. But always her. Then came the documents. Printouts of email headers, blurred screenshots, financial logs, all tied to my work account. The job I lost suddenly after a data breach I was blamed for, even though I never accessed the files in question. But someone else had. Someone who used my credentials. My hands were shaking. I flipped to the last page, and there it was. A withdrawal from my company pension fund, 2 months before I was fired. Signed digitally under my name. Except I never touched that account. I never even remembered the password. But Lorelai did. She helped me set it up when we first married. I didn't think twice at the time. She was good with paperwork, charming on calls with HR, always eager to help. And now I was seeing what that help had cost me. She hadn't just cheated. She had impersonated me, framed me, stolen from me, and vanished. But what made my skin crawl wasn't the theft or the lies. It was the realization that Franklin had known, or at least suspected. There was a sticky note inside the folder. It simply read, "I didn't protect you then. I should have." I wanted to throw up. But before I could even close the folder, my phone buzzed. A text. No name. No number. Just 5 digits. 94731. I stared at it, confused, until I heard the lock on my front door make a soft click. Someone was in the hallway, trying a code. I hadn't told anyone that I installed a keypad last month. No one. Except Lorelei. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just stood there in the kitchen, barely breathing, staring at the glowing screen of my phone like it might catch fire. The 5 digits, 94,731, were still displayed. The exact code to my front door keypad. I'd set it 6 weeks ago. I never told anyone. I never even wrote it down. The only time I spoke it aloud was the night I installed it, when Lorelei walked past me brushing her hair and mumbled, "Don't forget to change your locks." Back then, I thought it was a sarcastic comment, a joke, but now it felt like something else. A breadcrumb, or maybe a warning I was too naive to hear. And now, someone was outside trying that code. I heard the faint beeping, 1 digit at a time. I backed into the living room and grabbed the only thing I had within reach, a lamp. I don't own a gun. I've never even held one. I'm the guy who organizes his receipts by category and keeps 3 emergency flashlights in a drawer labeled miscellaneous. But in that moment, with the soft whir of the lock's motor clicking into motion, I felt something ancient rise in me. Not rage. Not bravery. Instinct. I held the lamp high and pressed myself against the wall beside the door. The final digit beeped. Click. And then nothing. No footsteps. No push. No sound at all. The door didn't swing open. The hallway went quiet again. I waited 30 seconds, then slowly peeked through the peephole. Empty. Except a small black flash drive sat dead center on the welcome mat. No envelope. No message. Just the device. I didn't open the door. Not yet. I grabbed my phone, snapped a photo of it, and sent it to an old coworker named Zeke, the only cybersecurity expert I still trusted. We hadn't spoken in years, but I added one line. "If you were me, would you plug this in?" He responded in under a minute. "Absolutely not. But if you do, disconnect Wi-Fi and don't open anything that runs on its own." Against all better judgment, I opened the door, snatched the drive, and locked everything behind me like the sky was falling. Back inside, I pulled out an old laptop I hadn't used in years. No saved logins. No synced accounts. Wiped to factory settings after Lorelei and I split. I booted it up, disabled everything that could connect to the outside world, and slid in the USB. It contained only one folder, titled, "He Saw Too Much." Inside were dozens of surveillance clips. Some of them were from my own apartment. Different angles. Hidden cameras. My bedroom. My office. My kitchen. The time-stamped footage ran back months. Maybe longer. But that wasn't the part that made my blood stop moving. One of the videos was titled, Session 18 Keller. I clicked it. It was Franklin, my former boss, sitting alone in what looked like a hotel room. Nervous. Speaking directly to someone off camera. "I didn't know she was filming," he said, his voice trembling. "I thought it was all just for leverage. I didn't know she'd actually." Static. Then Lorelei's voice. "You said you'd make the file disappear." Franklin nodded. "I did. But he's starting to dig. He's not who we thought." Then silence again. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse pounding in my neck. I felt nauseous. Lorelei hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been running something bigger. Something coordinated. Something with people I thought I could trust. But what chilled me more than anything was the realization that I was never the mark. I was the liability. And someone was running out of patience. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat in my living room with every light off, the unplugged flash drive clutched in my hand like a cursed object. My heartbeat was loud. My thoughts were louder. I replayed the audio in my head again and again. Franklin's panicked confession, Lorelei's cold tone, the line that kept scratching at the inside of my skull. He's not who we thought. What did that mean? Not who exactly. Who did they think I was? And who was I to them, if not just a man she was leaving? At 4:12 a.m., I watched the footage again. Slower this time. Frame by frame. I noticed things I hadn't seen before. Franklin's eyes darted off camera 3 times. Almost like he was checking with someone. Not her, someone else. The camera must have been hidden, because the angle was tilted and grainy, but just before the video cut out, I caught something. A reflection. In the glass frame behind Franklin, there was a blur. A silhouette of a man standing in the corner of the room. Too tall to be Franklin. Too still. Just watching. I paused it. Enhanced it as much as I could. It wasn't clear, but I recognized the outline. The squared shoulders. The way one hand rested behind his back. My stomach twisted. It was the man who brought the envelope 3 days ago. The man who never gave me his name. The man I thought was trying to help me. I didn't know who he was, but I knew he had access to files, to places, to me. He had known where I lived, what I needed to see, and exactly when I'd be vulnerable enough to open the door. I shut the laptop again, heart pounding now like it was trying to escape my ribs. My body wanted to run. Somewhere. Anywhere. But where do you run when the betrayal lives in your memories, in your walls, in your marriage? I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years, the storage unit. Lorelei and I had rented it during the 2nd year of our marriage to store old boxes when we downsized. She insisted we keep it just in case, though we never visited it again after 2019. The contract was in my name. I never canceled it. I needed to see what was inside. I left at sunrise. Paranoid. Looking over my shoulder. My apartment felt too open now, too exposed. I didn't take my usual car. I borrowed the neighbor's junky Corolla under the excuse of needing to haul some furniture. I even switched phones, leaving mine powered off and wrapped in foil inside my microwave, a trick I read on a conspiracy forum once, but never thought I'd actually use. The storage facility was an hour out of town, tucked between a defunct car wash and a gun shop. When I opened unit number 37, the wave of musty air hit me like a wall. It smelled untouched, forgotten, until I stepped inside. There were no boxes, just a single item, a chair, and strapped to it, not with ropes, but neatly looped zip ties, was a mannequin, wearing my old clothes, my work badge pinned to its chest, my broken reading glasses taped back together on its face. On the wall behind it, taped with care, were dozens of photos. Me, sleeping, me at work, me in the shower, me at my father's funeral, me in the hospital when I had the panic attack last year. All of them time-stamped. All of them taken from angles no one else could have had access to. That's when I realized the betrayal didn't start recently. It didn't even start with the lawyer. This had been planned for years. Not by Lorelei alone. By people I never knew I was surrounded by. And just as I backed toward the exit, I heard it. The sound of a car door slamming behind me. Then footsteps. Someone else was here. I didn't turn around at first. I couldn't. My entire body went stiff, like it had forgotten how to move. The echo of those footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate, unfazed, felt heavier than the air in that narrow concrete corridor. I kept my eyes on the mannequin. It felt like a decoy now, a sick distraction. And then I heard it. A voice I hadn't heard in months, maybe a year. A voice that used to whisper to me across a pillow and now sounded like it had never loved me at all. Everett. Just one word. But it broke me. I turned around slowly, the fluorescent light above flickering just enough to blur the edges of her face. It was Lorelei, standing just outside the unit's entrance. Not hiding, not running, wearing all black, like she was attending a funeral she planned herself. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She looked resigned. I stepped back without meaning to, hitting the mannequin with my elbow. Its arm shifted, clumsily flopping to the side like a dead weight. Lorelei's eyes followed the movement. I told them it was too much, she said quietly. But no one listens to the soft voices. My mouth felt dry. I wanted to scream at her. Ask what the hell this all was. Ask how long she'd been watching me. Ask what I did to deserve this. But all that came out was, why? She tilted her head. Because you weren't supposed to be in the way. You were supposed to stay quiet. Take the settlement. Sign the papers. Disappear. She stepped forward. I stepped back. There's a version of this story, she continued, where you get to walk away with your dignity. But then you started freezing accounts, digging through things you were never meant to find. You got clever, Everett. You're not supposed to be clever. I felt something sharp press against my spine, not a weapon, just cold fear, tricking my nerves into thinking anything could happen now. You ruined people's work, she said, eyes narrowing. You were just a piece, a placeholder husband, a cover story, and instead, you got curious. I stared at her, finally finding my voice. What are you, Lorelei? Who are these people? What did I ever do to you? She looked away then, not out of guilt, but calculation, like she was deciding how much truth I was allowed. You weren't the target, she said. You were the proximity. That's what you never understood. We needed access to your job, to your habits, to the files you didn't know you had. But then you became inconvenient. You kept receipts. You noticed things. And worst of all, you got sentimental. She reached into her coat. My heart stopped. I clenched my fists, prepared to either run or fight or beg. I wasn't even sure. But she didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out a phone. She tapped it once and held it up. A voice began playing. Not hers. Not mine. It was Franklin. A recording of him, panicked, confessing in detail everything he had done. The emails, the documents he erased, the bribes, the company assets he helped route. A full, unfiltered confession. He sounded scared. Broken. His voice cracked halfway through. Lorelei paused it. You want revenge? Post this. Ruin him. Blow it all up. I stared, confused. Why would you give me this? Because it's cleaner than what comes next, she said. If you take this and leave, they'll let you go. If you don't. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just in the system. She was protected by it. And I was being offered an exit. A red button that might save me at the cost of everything else. I reached for the phone, but she pulled it back. One condition, she said. You vanish. You don't publish your little Reddit sob story. You don't go to the police. You don't try to expose us. You take this and disappear. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. And I smiled. Not because I agreed, but because I had lied to her, too. I had already sent the videos to 3 different people. I had written everything down. The photos, the recordings, the files from the flash drive. Duplicated, labeled, time-stamped, and scheduled. And one of those schedules was set to go live in 12 hours. With or without me. I didn't sleep that night, again. I sat in the parking lot outside a diner 20 miles away from the storage unit, sipping bitter coffee from a chipped mug and watching the sky turn from black to navy to gold. I was still wearing the same clothes from the day before. My hands trembled when I gripped the cup, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was adrenaline. And something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. At exactly 9 a.m., the first email went out. I watched it happen. The auto-send I had programmed the night before hit 3 inboxes simultaneously. A trusted investigative reporter I had once helped with a back-end security breach, a federal financial crimes investigator whose name I found buried inside a leaked document on the flash drive, and a lawyer who owed me a favor from long ago when I helped clear his son's name from a fraudulent cyber attack. Each of them received a package with everything: the voice recordings, the surveillance videos, the pension fund fraud, the storage unit photos, the backdated crypto wallet transactions, and Franklin's trembling face confessing to it all. Lorelei's voice was in there too. Calm. Calculated. Chilling. I didn't run. I didn't vanish. I waited. And less than 48 hours later, it happened. First, Franklin's resignation made headlines. Then came the press leak. Tech executive implicated in years-long internal embezzlement scheme. I didn't speak to the press. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke loud enough. And in the midst of it all, Lorelei disappeared. Not legally. Her name never showed up in the articles. But I knew what it meant. She was gone. Vanished like smoke. Like she had never existed outside my world at all. But for once, it didn't destroy me. A few days later, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a lawyer's note. A real letter, handwritten on cream paper. It was from Franklin's wife. She thanked me. Told me their son would be safe now. That she had suspected something for years, but never had proof. That my stubbornness, my endless need to document everything, had finally done something good. I read that letter a dozen times before putting it away in a drawer I no longer locked. Now I live somewhere quiet. A small town with cold mornings and kind neighbors. I freelance from home. I go for walks. I make terrible coffee and enjoy it anyway. I'm not afraid of doorbells anymore. I'm not broken. Lorelei tried to reduce me to a footnote in her story, a disposable chapter, a man too quiet to notice the walls closing in. But I did notice. And I didn't just survive. I ended the story my way. If you're reading this and you're in it, if you're stuck in the fog, doubting your instincts, second-guessing every look and silence, hear me. Your quiet is not weakness. Your questions are not paranoia. And your story doesn't have to end with you broken. Sometimes, the softest voices leave the loudest echoes. Ever it out.